Welcome back, trackside. First race for the day is the Prototypes as they go barrelling down into turn one off the pole. Was Dave Barron right alongside with Realty Lanes, Daniel Gonzalez, Jason Macris and John Paul Drake rounding out the front two rows. We're already around the back straight, and the guy that has a very happy home here at Queensland Raceway leads the field, Dave Barham. He took 3 from 3 last year. We weren't sure that he was going to make it yesterday after a stall on the grid, and he stormed through the field to win the race. He's leading the field away through turn 3 now. Big challenge there with John Paul Drake. He's coming through nicely in the Wolf there as they charge out of turn 4. Daniel Gonzalez yesterday got his first podium, and that thing is absolutely hooked up. Darren Smith here, Aaron Noonan just slotted in straight from pit lane. Noon's the Prototypes, a wild ride in the start of yesterday's race, wasn't it?
Yeah, we lost a couple of cars. Turn 6 was the turn that claimed a few of them, but we're off and rolling. This is the second of 3 races, 2 races today, round 3 of the Australian Prototype Series. And Drake's off and moving. He's already made ground to get through to second spot on Gonzalez. They finish lap 1, 13 to go at Queensland Raceway. Sun's out, great day, great weather. We have got piles of racing today. Thanks for joining us here on our live streaming coverage. Gonzalez had a look there at turn 1 and ended up with a big wiggle wobble in the middle of turn 1. He'll have to get that all going again. But here is Drake in second spot on board the Wolf GBO8.
South Australian absolutely on the charge, chasing the Queenslander down, and he has to. He's as far down as 8th in the championship. That's as furthest he's been down in this series, as we see Mark Lauke having a big look down the inside of fellow title antagonist there in Jason Macris, the Marina Mirage. These two cars are identical in every single way other than driver setup details.
And identical to the point, weren't they the two that spun yesterday?
Yes, that's right.
So they got it right. They got it wrong when they exited turn 6 because they both looped it round. So hence why they're starting from the similar position for this progressive grid. Where they finished yesterday is where they start today. But out front, Barham's moving away. He's built the margin already to 2.1 seconds as he comes off the turn at turn 6. A bit further back in the pack, you can see the Wests here fighting with the Radicals in this field. So there's a nice mixture for the Australian Prototype Series. 2.35 seconds at the line is Barham's margin, but the fast man on the road is Lauke in position 4, moving forward, 3.6 off the lead, but setting the fastest sector times last time around.
So those two cars we're just talking about, Lauke and also Macris, these two cars just streaming through screen now, mid-screen, and the car in front, the white one, all 3 are the first turbocharged cars that we've seen in the Prototype Series. So they're a 1600cc turbocharged car. John Paul Drake in the gold and black car in front as Lauke goes round. And that's a feature of the turbo cars. They're just trying to find that position on the throttle to get out of the corner. The turbo comes on with a massive rush and they go round. We saw Mark Lauke yesterday do it coming out of turn 6, as Aaron just said before. Here he is coming into turn 3. The light car in front and behind at the moment, and he was offline as well, tried to rectify it with the throttle, as race drivers will do. The problem solver is the right pedal, and he got out of the corner and unfortunately looped it.
Problem solver and problem creator.
That's right.
Just depends which order.
There's that fine balance in motorsport, isn't there? So down the front straight, Dave Barham doing a ripping job, leading the championship. As of this morning, the championship points was Dave Barham on a 239, Carmelo Bonaventura on 200. Now Carmelo is down the field just a tad at the moment, down in 6th there. So he's in the Radical, so he's also leading the Radical trophy for this year as well. So that's another feature of this series, the Radicals being a model of car or a brand of car as well, running in this field. So they have their own trophy race within the race, and Carmelo is just down in 6th place at the moment. But the way the points are, they're allocated the same right through the classes. He's second in the title hunt. Daniel Gonzalez on 200 points, equal with Carmelo. Jason Macris 193, Mark Short 187. Mark not here this weekend in the Prince LS out of South Australia. Mark Lauke, multiple champion in this category on 181. And John Paul Drake, who we've seen showing a very rapid, normally aspirated Wolf this morning, is chasing after Dave Barham. And JP has never been this far down in the title hunt. That's Carmelo Bonaventura now being challenged by the West there of Androas, and he is looking down the inside. So you can see the very specific difference. The Radical a lot higher, a bigger 2-seater vehicle with a higher rollover hoop. and a higher rear wing. The two west behind, very low slung, following that Ford GT40 type approach to sports car racing. Low slung, use the underbody and over the top of the vehicle. You can actually see the rear wing follows the same plane as the rear guard, so collecting that air off the back of the car.
And the radicals really do remind me, Darren, of those SR2 prototypes that competed in Grand Am series racing in sports cars in the late 90s, early 2000s. We saw some of those types of cars here in Australia. Remember at the Adelaide Race of 1,000 Years,
Turn of the century.
Yeah, American Le Mans Series, or the Asia Pacific Le Mans Series. I think it was rebranded for the weekend. Here are our leaders. Barham in that orange car leading the way. Here's Drake, still hanging on to second spot. Gonzalez hasn't been able to get back up and run and take that spot away.
John Paul Drake is one of these kind of race drivers that Australian motorsport needs more of. He's an absolute ball of energy and excitement and enthusiasm. A lot like Mark Lauke, they just can't wait. You know, it's the old Steve McQueen adage is the days between a race meeting is just waiting for a race meeting. Just waiting for the next race. They're so involved in their prototype series, and they've been around in it for since it became the prototype series, and prior to that, when it ran with the superbikes, it was called a sports racer series, which was pretty much all the chain-driven motorcycle engine vehicles. These vehicles these days are now running transaxles and Quaife-type diffs and a proper, let's say, racing car drive line. Not that there's anything wrong with a chain drive. It's a massively effective and a lightweight way to do it, and that's what the Wests tend to run. The cars out in front now, as this prototype series grows, are all pretty much gearbox and transaxle type vehicles.
Should we start our 5-lap conversation about Wolf and its history? Because a lot of these cars are Wolf chassis.
You've been studying up, I'm sure. There could be a byline on V8 Sleuth at some point.
It's probably the only way that I'm ever going to make a connection between the Australian prototype series and the Peanut Slab Ford Sierra RS500 that the Wolf team had operated.
Wow, I'm
at
sure.
Bathurst. That's about as far as I get.
I'm sure we can have that conversation off air.
Yes.
So David Barham leads. We're at 8 laps remaining in this race. He's got quite a handy lead. In fact, Dave Barham's had a lot handier lead this year. He's had out up to 8 seconds at Sydney Motorsport Park at round 1. And this is his home ground, but at the moment, John Paul Drake is absolutely wringing the neck of his Wolf CN. And he is now coming under fire from Realty Lane's very own Gonzalez, and gets through. So the turbo car gets through on the NA of John Paul Drake, getting through there very nicely indeed. So JP really does need to knuckle down. 8th in the title hunt, 154. He's got Glenn Stalbaum, who actually started from pit lane, was late coming out of the paddock. They were all very early yesterday. Down the inside, Macris now goes on JP. Great buddies, these two. And Macris gets through. He's also in a bit of a hurry, Aaron, to get his title hunt or his title defence back on track, because at the moment, Jason Macris is sitting down in 4th place, and he's some nearly 50 points behind Dave Barham, our current race leader.
And he got a really good run off turn 5. Drake thought about covering and then thought, oh, it's all a bit too late. He's going to get this move done. So he slotted it down the inside to grab 3rd position and move up another spot. Lauke's making ground. He's passed a couple in the last lap or 2. That's for position 6. And that's got him to the front of that next queue of cars. And then there's a margin. He's got to find 11 seconds to get to Paul Trengove, who's the next car down the road in the number 5 West.
Wow, that's a wild old ride there for Mark Lauke as well, coming out of turn 2. You don't want to put these low slung cars over. A big slide there for Andreas. Massive slide. He's working the control tyre very hard. This is the replay into 1, and it was the exit of 2 just around the corner here where Mark Lauke put it out sideways a little bit and continues on down the long main straight here. It's our race leader in the Chiron, the only Chiron in the Australian Prototype Championship. And he is now being monstered by Gonzalez in the White Wolf.
And Gonzalez just set the fastest lap of the race last time, 108.57. The margin half a second at the line. He's really in the toe down this back straight, Darren. This is the closest he's got in this race so far. Showing the nose. Won't get it done there, it's a long way away, but he zeroed in and ripped a lot of margin in the last couple of laps. Lap 9 of 14. Now, First race on the live stream today of the Shannons Nationals. We'll see the final race for the weekend of Porsche Michelin GT3 Cup Challenge coming up soon. The MRF Tyres Australian Production Car Series with a 2.5 hour endurance race. Of course, two more races in the Car Sales TCR Australia Series, and the prototypes are back later in the afternoon for their final race of the weekend. But this is a really good fight. Gonzalez is working his way into this. Macris is coming with him as well. But Lauki's still one of the fastest cars on the road. He's back in position 6. He'll get to Trentgrove before the end of this race, but only at the end. Barham responds. New fastest lap, 1:08.50, so he stemmed the tide last time around.
So the lap record of 1:08.47 set by James Winslow, the Englishman that called Australia home for such a long time.
And wasn't it that Lauki did what did he do? I'm looking at the timing screen here from yesterday.
Qualifying yesterday, yeah.
An 8:07 on our screen here. So
we're expecting someone to get near that lap record. That was in a West, so we're talking 8 generations of these cars to go. But really, who's going to take it away from the hands and feet of James Winslow? That's a guy that can dance on the pedals as good as anyone.
These guys aren't going to break the lap record at the moment because they're too busy having a war, because Gonzalez really lit it up on the exit of turn 3, trying to get the drive back to 4. He's sideways again there. He's probably just trying a little bit too hard at the moment.
A bit eager, isn't he?
Yeah, he got close to the lead and then all of a sudden started to drive it a little bit too ragged. He needs to go back to what earned him that time back. Macris is right there with him. They've dropped John Paul Drake off in 4th spot. He's just behind them, just outside of camera shot.
Jason Macris doing what every race driver, trying to close in on a car in front, left and right, and really worked for him because Gonzalez was in the mirrors coming into the braking zone there. So he's pretty much put the chase of Dave Barham aside, and he's now looking in the mirrors. So Jason Macris will be using that to his advantage.
Well, last time around, he set the new fastest lap of the race, 1:08.44. So they're all getting their eye in as they go. Their fastest lap of the race, the top 3 cars, if you take their fastest lap individually, it's separated by 1/10 of a second. They've all just done it at very different times.
Don't worry, Dave Barham's trying. Just heard him hitting the rev limiter there as they were coming out of turn 3. So that's going from 4th to 5th gear. So you're working hard if you're hitting the rev limiter in that gearing range. And he's working hard to keep Gonzalez behind him. He's certainly been the form car of season 2019, and it was really good to see him rock up to Sydney Motorsport Park because the last 3 years he's just done this race, his home race at Queensland Raceway, and I think he's really enjoying it because he's got this nice points lead. He's starting to do it. Never worked so hard between race meetings, he said, just to keep this thing ticking over, but you know that's what it's all about. It's why Tony Ricciardello's got 10 championships, preparation, then 1% of the time you get to race.
Yeah. And 95% of the time you're travelling.
Correct, yes.
When you're coming from Perth. It's a long hike.
It is a big haul.
This is a good fight. Really enjoying this race. These top 3, there's nothing between them. Macris, he's punched out a lap time last time around that was less than 1/10 of a second slower than the fastest lap of the race. So he's consistently backing it up at the moment. 3 laps to go here in race 2. This is round 3 of 5 for the Australian Prototype Series. Next round is Winton on the Father's Day weekend, and then they'll finish off with the last round of the Shannons Nationals at the Bend Motorsport Park in mid-November, which of course is the final round 2 for a range of categories, including the Car Sales TCR Australia Series. As Gonzalez gets close again at turn 4, that's where he's been close a couple of times in this race. But if he makes a little mistake, well, he's lost the touch with the leader at the moment, and Macris has got those lights on. He's keen to fill a gap should one be left.
It's all about the mirrors, isn't it? Down into turn 6 there, he's left and right. Where's he going?
You can fix that though.
He just break them off.
Correct.
Yeah. I think we saw that in the improved production race yesterday. There was mirrors just getting chucked out through the window net. Yeah, well, they got torn off on the way through on a dive bomb. Yeah, that's right.
Probably more
in improved production racing.
Bit of traffic coming up here, Darren. This could make it spicy. Penultimate lap. Gonzalez is quick on the exit of 2. This is where he gets close enough to think he's in the game. He's lost the ground at turn 4 each of the times, but a couple of slow cars. Can they come in the mix? He's really deep under brakes. Made heaps of ground there.
Coming up on Adam Beasley there. We touched on Adam yesterday running that Gilles Villeneuve tribute helmet, and of course number 27 leads to that, doesn't it?
It does, but it also leads to getting out of the way as the leaders come through. He's done a nice job there, just tucked it to the left-hand side. That'll probably hold up Macris, if anything. He's got him at, no, not too bad. I'm watching behind the camera shot, and he's been able to get through and keep in touch with the leader. So this time around will be the last lap when they get to the start-finish line. Barham's responded in that second sector. he should get home from here. He's done enough to win this race.
We've seen him in years gone by win these races by sort of 15 to 18 seconds. It's just the fact that these guys in the Turbo Wolves, the Tornadoes, are starting to come back to where he is. His development is only 0.1, 0.2 this year, whereas these guys are at 1.1 or 1.2 seconds a lap. So they're going with him, as we've got Glenn Stahlbaum now as well. They're catching him. He could actually play into this. He stays right out of the way up the long back straight, running up to turn 3 at Queensland Raceway. And here's the dive bomb.
Oh, no. He's taken him out.
A massive dive bomb. He set that up from a long way out, tore the back of the Chiron up, and what that's done is give Jason Macris the impetus that his championship defence needs. It'll give him full points in this race. Yep.
Wow.
Aghast.
I knew he was in deep, and he'd been in deep the last couple of laps and made margin, but he just went too far. Oh, no, they're both off in the sand and the gravel at turn 3. Neither car's moved.
You don't get a little bit pregnant there, do you?
No.
That is absolutely off into the boonies.
But this is Jason Macris, who will be the man who will bring it off the turn. Yesterday, he finished 3rd behind the 2 cars that are currently in the gravel. He wins race 2 of the Australian Prototype Series here at Queensland Raceway. Jean-Paul Drake will be home in 2nd spot, and that should put Paul Trengove 3rd overall. In fact, he's just coming across the line. Here he is in the west, car number 5. He'll be 3rd. Mark Lauke is 4th.
Mark Lauke rescues that, actually. Started out of 5th, went to the back. The demise of the 2 guys in front brought him up into 4th place. So that has worked out, I guess, the demise of those 2 guys.
Here we go.
Worked it out.
He's just in way too deep here, but he probably would be able to make the corner if the car's not there, but contact with the rear, and I think you can actually see as he goes off into the gravel, hands in the air on his helmet, almost to go, oh, what have I done?
And Dave Barham didn't see it coming. He had his eyes for the corner there. He was well focused on the exit of that corner and just caught him by surprise. So Jason Macris gets the win in the Mirage Racing Marina Mirage Wolf Tornado. John Paul Drake home in 2nd place. Paul Trengove on his return to competitive motor racing, 3rd place. Mark Lauke jags one out and gets home in 4th place. And we go down to Eminata Francesco and pit lane.